Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns and today we've got an update to a previous video I made about ace pilots. Farming ace pilots is the key to getting your hands on two key resources for Wikelo hand-ins, ace pilot Helms and Pristine medals. And after a bug caused NPCs to spawn without inventory in 4.5, I'm really happy to say that in 4.6 the medals are back. But there's a new problem caused by the engineering rework. Small fighters, like the Hornets the aces fly, are now seemingly impossible to soft death, meaning the ace pilot body can easily get catapulted off into the void at maximum velocity, never to be seen again. However, we've worked out a method to consistently preserve and loot the aces, which I want to share in this vid. So if this sounds good to you, grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, then let's get into it. As mentioned, this is something of an update vid to one I made a couple of patches back. However, just to give it some standalone value, let's have a quick recap on where to find ace pilots. If you already know all this, then please just use the chapter markers to skip ahead to the next bit. Aces are a random spawn during patrol missions, found in the mercenary section of your contract manager. Verified missions are offered by Foxwell Security, while unverified versions are offered by headhunters. However, it should be noted that the structure and payouts are exactly the same, and while the Headhunters missions are unverified, they don't, unlike the Vaughn mercenary missions, involve strictly illegal activity, so you don't need to worry about getting a crime stat during any of this. The only real difference is that Foxwell missions will give mercenary guild scrip, while Headhunters pay council scrip. Both of these can be turned in at Wikelo for favours in a 50-to-1 ratio, but just note that the two types don't mix and match. The mission pattern is seen most easily in Foxwells, with 3 levels of difficulty, yellow, orange and red, and 2 missions contained within each bracket. Headhunters have the same 6 mission structure, but the naming convention is all over the place for these ones. It's easiest, particularly when you're scrolling through tons of missions in the list, to just go off the payouts to find the ones you want. Please do be aware that it's only the patrol missions that spawn the aces, so none of the asteroid base protection missions or ambush missions are ever going to spawn one. All patrols follow the same structure. You have 3 patrol points to move between, each with a randomized encounter. Neutralize targets is a simple kill mission. Deep scan means you have to wait while the dispatcher performs a scan which may or may not result in targets to kill. Satellite sweep involves moving between 3 to 5 satellites depending on mission difficulty and checking if they're friendly or hostile. And Protect Ship gives you a client ship that you need to cover. An ace pilot has the potential to spawn during any of these phases, with higher level missions having a higher percentage chance of an encounter with one. Now in the latter part of this vid, I'm going to go into what I think are the optimal grinding strategies and a few tips for getting through missions quicker. I'm conscious that many of you know all about ace pilots and patrols, and will just want the juicy bit on how to reliably farm them in 4.6. So the key thing here is that we need to bring the aces ship to a stop before making them go kaboom. The problem we're having with aces in the post-engineering world is that the ship explodes at high velocity, and that momentum continues, hurling the ace body off into the distance and breaking the marker that's supposed to lead you to the loot. There are 2 ways to deal with this, but our preferred method is to use EMP equipped ships. You have a number to choose from: the Anvil Hawk, Aegis Avenger Warlock, RSI Scorpio Centauris, and the Aegis Vanguard Sentinel. Just in the interests of completeness, and to avoid that one actually comment, there is a 5th ship in SC that packs an EMP, the Aegis Sabre Raven. But this is an extremely rare limited edition that only a handful of players have access to, as it was an exclusive connected to the purchase of a piece of Intel hardware. As ever, have a standard Loudguns disclaimer. All the other EMP ships are buyable in-game, and that's exactly how I would recommend you get your hands on one. Of the buying game options, I would personally dismiss the Anories. To be fair, who doesn't love an X-Wing? But while the Antares gives you an EMP as well as a quantum dampener, These are both under co-pilot control, and they don't default to pilot if you don't have a butt in the other seat. For me personally, it's a Return of the King moment. The Vanguard Sentinel was my go-to fighter for a long time, but it's been superseded in recent years. However, versus the lighter Hawk and Warlock, I prefer having the tankiness and the firepower of my Sentinel, so it's definitely back in rotation. My components have all been up to grade A military, and I've switched out the bespoke distortion repeaters for the laser repeater variety. While ballistics are very much in vogue right now, we want laser weaponry for ace hunting, as before we drop the EMP to disable the ship, we're going to want to strip the shields without killing them. Ballistics are liable to blow the target up before the shields are all the way down given their penetration characteristics. For the curious, the other option is to use distortion weapons. And while this would greatly increase the ship choice we have, it does have a major drawback. You're basically going to be giving up a big chunk of your potential DPS, as you're forced to use hardpoints for disto guns as opposed to lethal weapons. And the shutdown time is going to be longer than the single blast of an EMP. Your lowered DPS is going to mean you're slower getting through the missions, which in turn will reduce the number of ace pilots you encounter. So let's take a look at this shutdown technique in action. As soon as an ace pilot is confirmed in your mission, you can switch to your EMP fire group with scroll and press fire once to get the device charging. Then we're going to want to strip the shields off the ace pilot. If the shields are up even a little bit, then the EMP isn't going to give us the total shutdown that we're looking for. With the shields out of the way, get nice and close, tracking the distance to target on the HUD, and switch back to and fire your EMP to discharge. For max efficiency, you're going to want to be nice and close, under 500 meters away, and then let off the blast. If done right, you should get complete shutdown of the ace and he should come to a complete stop. Allow it a bit of time to really take the velocity out of it. You're then weapons free and you can finish him off with your laser repeaters. This should then guarantee that the ship carcass stays in place after destruction and the ace with it, plus you'll reliably get the marker guiding you into their position. Keep in mind that if the mission completes, you will lose this marker, so it's good practice to take the ace out while there's still some of the mission left to do, and then stick nice and close to them while you finish off any remaining targets. The good news is that the aces don't tend to despawn at the end of the mission, you just lose the marker, so as long as you've got nice and close within visual range, you'll still be able to float over and loot the body even if the mission times out and moves on to the next patrol point. Now it's definitely worth touching on spawn and medal drop rates because these both seem to have notched down versus the 4.4 patch. Back then the medal drops were up in the 90th percentile, with nearly every ace bar the occasional bugged one including a pristine medal in their inventory. However, based on our recent testing, which should be taken with a pinch of salt as it was a somewhat limited dataset of about 20 kills, the drop rate seems to be more like 50%. However, we have confirmed that they do spawn with all types of medals and that they are always pristine. So cartography, unification, UEE 6th and Tavarin war markers are all possible to farm in this way. Similarly, I don't have any hard data to back this up, but the spawn rate of ace pilots feels lower than it was in previous patches. I used to get an ace roughly 1 in 3 of the 74k orange level contracts, but this feels more like 1 in 5 now. And on red level contracts you always seem to get at least one, whereas it seems more like 1 in 2 missions. So with the decrease in both aces and aces with medals, it's going to be important to give yourself as much chance as possible to find them. Now I used to prefer the 74k contracts as they were quite easy to solo quickly and you could reliably stay close to the ace's body when it popped, even if that meant taking a bit of fire from whatever was left over. This is still a viable option for solo pilots, and you do have to keep in mind your personal level of skill. You'll have to just accept a slower grind than we had historically. Instead though, many of you will feel comfortable soloing the 135k contracts, the higher level of orange ones, which do seem to have a meaningfully higher spawn chance. Personally, I like to do these with a wingman, and myself and Flint had a pretty successful night running these. If you ensure that you level up both Foxwell and Headhunters in tandem, you can easily switch between the two contract types, and have nearly no downtime waiting for the missions to repopulate. Start with the 135 Foxwell, then do the 135 Headhunters, maybe gap fill with a 74k contract, and by the time you've done that, the first 135k will be back up. For maximum ace potential though, you're going to want to hit the red level contracts, the 200k and 350k ones. These do involve significantly stronger and more numerous enemies, including ships like hammerheads, which are going to be difficult and slow for the EMP equipped fighters to punch through. So instead for these, we'd opt to also have a larger ship. In this case I asked Sylar to bring her Idris out with a couple of gunners. This can actually blast through the mission, while you attach an ace hunter and an EMP equipped fighter to specifically deal with aces when they spawn. You do have to be a little careful when doing this, particularly if you've brought out a ship that has point defense turrets. These aren't going to care or hold back, and they'll happily chew through the ace if you're not careful. So consider shutting off weapons on any such ship if the ace gets too close, and just allow your ace hunters time to shut it down and take it out before you murder everyone else. Having an outrider or two also really helps speed through the satellite sweep missions. If you've ever done one of these in an Idris, you know the pain. A final little tip on these missions in particular, because speeding through as many missions as possible is the real key to a solid grinding strategy. You can largely ignore what you're being told to do during satellite sweeps. Mission guidance will encourage you to visit the location, scan the satellite, and then leave it alone if it's green or kill it if it's red. But in reality, you can just skip straight ahead to pew pew regardless of what colour the satellite is. Green or red, just make it dead. That will get you the tick in the box and you can move on. This doesn't impact the outcome of the mission or your payout, and it will greatly speed up your completion of these tasks. So I hope this was useful and relieves some of the frustration of disappearing ace pilots. I personally was going a little bit mad between the lower spawn rates and watching my valuable targets zip off out of sight. If it did help and you think I deserve it, please consider leaving a like, hitting subscribe and tickling the notification bell to stay tuned for more content. A big thank you to Keem, who had the initial idea of testing EMP ships, and to Flint, Sylar and Kazoon for their help in testing and refining the strategy. As ever in SC, it helps to be part of a group who can share good ideas and help you put them into practice. So if you're looking for folks to fly with, please do pop into our Discord, links just in the video description down below. With all that said, I'd just like to thank you for watching to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.